Looking for the latest comic book to add to your collection? How about the last card for that Magic the Gathering Commander deck? Well, the comic book store's got you covered. Shop online at comicbookstore.tcgplayerpro.com or come in person at 30 North Main Street, Glassboro, New Jersey. Pizza people, welcome back. We've got a pretty grindy deck for you today. On top of that, it's a tournament-winning deck list. Hollywoodpizza here, and I actually have the Slice of Standard Events first place deck played by Victor. That's right, we're going to be playing some Mardu Midrange, just grinding the opponent to dust here. Let's get right to the deck list. So to start off in our 1-drop slot, we've got a cut down, a black. It's an instant, destroy target creature with total power 5, total power and toughness 5 or less, excuse me. We also have Voltage Surge, 1 red, as initial cost to cast this spell. You can sacrifice an artifact. If you did, it deals 4 damage. If you didn't, it just deals 2. So overall, we've got some 1-drop spells here to kind of help eliminate any potential threats that our opponent's going to put down on the battlefield early. Or even later, Voltage Surge actually gets better if we have an artifact to sacrifice for it, as it can pretty much kill anything for toughness, which is just great. Creature or Planeswalker as well. So it's a little bit more versatile than the cut down to a certain degree. We have 3 Spirited Companions in the 2-drop slot here. Colorless and a white for a 1/1 enchantment creature dog. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Kind of a decent little curve dropper here. Just play this on turn 2, get a nice little redraw. It could chump block later if you need to, or potentially get some value of it with the Sarah Paragon, which we'll get to later. 3 Infernal Grass, colorless and a black, destroy a creature, you lose 2. It's an instant, so essentially kind of just like a catch-all for pretty much anything in the format that's going to be a creature for just a cost of a couple life. And we do have some life mitigating cards in the deck to help with that. We have 1 Tenacious Underdog, a colorless and a black for a 3/2. Blitz, 2 colorless, 2 black. You pay 2 life, so it comes in with haste if you blitz it. And then you can blitz it from the graveyard. So you've seen this card by now. Just a nice little grindy card that helps early and helps in the mid to late game. Kind of keep accruing you value and dealing more damage, giving you something to do with your mana. 4 Bloodtithe Harvester, just a fantastic 2-drop that we've been seeing here for some time as well. Black and a red for a Vampire 3/2. Whenever this card enters the battlefield, you create a blood. You can tap, sacrifice this card. Target creature will get -X, where X is twice the number of bloods you control. And you can only activate as a sorcery. And then the blood token, you can pay a colorless, tap, sack it, discard a card to redraw. So just phenomenal overall. Helps smooth your draws, helps eliminate creatures early, and has a good beatdown rate as a 2-mana 3/2. Reckoner Bankbuster, 2 colorless. It's a 4/4 vehicle. Whenever it enters the battlefield, it comes in with 3 charge counters, 2 colorless, tap, remove a charge counter from it, draw a card. Then if it has no counters on it, you create a treasure token and a colorless pilot token creature with this creature crew's vehicles of those power were 2 or greater, and it has crew 3. Bankbuster's great. Definitely a grindy card, draws a lot of cards. Is a pretty decent sized threat just for 2 mana. If you play this into like a Underdog or Bloodtithe, you can start attacking right away, and then later on, you get a creature that can crew it by itself and some more mana. So just a great card overall. Really, really grindy. 3 Meathook Massacres. Double black and X. Whenever this card enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X until end of turn. Whenever a creature control dies, each opponent loses 1. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 1. So just a really great card overall. It kind of scales as the game progresses to the point where you'll essentially be able to wipe the board of almost anything that's in play, gain some life back. And then if need be, you can just use it on your own essential board if you need to kill your opponent, or if this is just on the battlefield and your opponent's slowly willing down your creature, then they're going to have to take some damage for it. We've all seen this card by now. It's just really, really strong. 4 Wedding Announcements, 2 colorless and a white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, gets an invitation counter. If you attack with 2 or more creatures, you draw a card. If you didn't, you just make a 1/1 creature token. And then if it has 3 or more counters on it, you get to flip it, and then your creatures get +1/+1. Once again, just a nice little mid-range grindy card. You get some tokens, and then when it flips, all of your creatures actually get bigger. Fable the Mirror Breaker, 2 colorless and a red Saga. First chapter, make a 2/2 Goblin Shaman whenever it attacks. You get a treasure. Second chapter, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many. Third chapter, you exile it and it flips over into this 2/2 that you can pay a colorless tap to create a token that's a copy of another non-legendary creature. It has haste, and you have to sack it at the end of turn, at the end step. So just a phenomenal value card. If you haven't seen this card already, you've definitely been living under a rock potentially, because this card is literally in every format. Just one of the best cards that you could be playing right now in Magic. We also have Archangel of Wrath here in the 4-drop slot, 2 colorless, 2 white for a 3/4 Angel. It has Kicker Black and Kicker Red, flying lifelink. Whenever it enters the battlefield for each time you kicked it, it deals 2 damage to any target. So that's just great. Essentially, if you kick it twice, you get to deal 4 and gain 4 because this card has lifelink, so that damage will gain you some life as well, or you can just play for 5. Kind of shoots something down if you need to. Just a really great card overall. And it also has flying lifelink and pretty decent stats at a 3-4. Sarah Paragon, one of the new cards as well from Dominaria United. 2 colorless, 2 white, 3-4 angel flying. Once during each of your turns, you can play a land card from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell, mana value 3 or less. If you do, it gains whenever it's put it back into the graveyard. You exile it and gain 2 life. So overall, just a phenomenal card. It's, yeah, just about as late game as you can get. You play this, you have some Fables, maybe the Destroyed Your Wedding Announcements, some Spirited Companions, Blood Tithe, Meat Hook, Bankbuster. You can pretty much get almost everything in this deck. And on top of that, it's a 3-4 flyer to boot. I've been highly impressed with this card. It's not necessarily like a Luris, but it definitely has a chance to just run away with the game when timed correctly. 2 Wandering Emperors here for Planeswalkers as well. 2 colorless, 2 white, 3 loyalty. Flash, as long as it enters the battlefield this turn, you can use the loyalty abilities. Anytime you can use an instant. +1, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature against first strike until end of turn. -1, get a 2/2 Samurai token with Vigilance. -2, exile target tap creature to gain a couple life. So overall, one of my favorite cards in Standard. Potentially one of my favorite cards of the last few years even. Just really powerful. It comes down, it can exile a card. If you exile Tenacious Underdog, essentially your opponent won't get the draw and it'll be gone permanently. Just a really, really solid card overall. And on top of that, it's just a win condition by itself. And can also kind of make some awkward combat situations if you end up putting that +1/+1 counter on a creature and giving it first strike. We have 2 Henricas here to round out the 4-drop slot. 2 colorless, 2 black for 1/3 creature vampire flying. It's legendary. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to choose one that hasn't been chosen yet. Each player sacks a creature, you draw a card and lose a life, or you transform it. When you transform it, it turns into a 3/4 flying death touch lifelink, 2 black and a colorless ability. Each creature control with flying, death touch, or lifelink gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This card's amazing. There's definitely some situations where you can just end up sacking a Spirited Companion, and then your opponent sacks like a good value creature. It essentially replaces itself as well, and then you can transform it into a flying death touch lifelinker that can kind of run away with the game. And there's definitely some other cards in the deck that already have lifelink flying that this card just can pump up, and before you know it, you're just dealing your opponent tons of damage. This having flying is just huge. We have 1 Elspeth Resplendent, 3 colorless, 2 white, 5 loyalty. +1, choose up to 1 creature that you up to 1 target creature. Put a counter, a +1/+1 counter, and a counter from among flying, first strike, lifelink, and vigilance on it. -3, look at the top 7. Put a permanent card, mana value 3 or less, onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it. The rest on the bottom randomly. -7, create 5 3/3 angel tokens with flying. Card's phenomenal. I mean, if you get the ultimate and then you use Henrika's ability when it's flipped over, the game's probably going to end. That's kind of, a little bit Christmas landy, but overall the +1's great. You can give any of your creatures flying, first strike, lifelink, vigilance, whatever you need at the time. And then -3, you can essentially kind of get a little mini Collected Company off of it as well. So really, really powerful card. And if you start giving everything lifelink or flying, then your Henrika gets even better. We also have a 1 of Lisa here, Forgotten Archangel. 2 colorless, 2 white and a black, 4/5 flying lifelink. Whenever another non-token creature control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Just a really, really powerful card overall. It's a 4/5. It has flying. It has lifelink. And then let's say your opponent's not able to deal with this, and they're trying to deal with some of your other cards through blocks, through any kind of destruction, anything like that, then you're just going to get them back at the beginning of the next end step. And on top of that, if a creature an opponent controls would die, you get to exile it. So that could also be huge against like a Tenacious Underdog or anything else that essentially the opponent's trying to get some type of recursion. For special lands, we don't really have too many outside of like some of our dual lands and pain lands here. We have 1 Takenuma and 1 Aganjo. Essentially, Ganjo is just great. Additional removal against anything that's attacking or blocking, and Takenuma helps get back pretty much any of your creatures or planeswalkers. For our sideboard here, we have a couple Duress to help against the control matchup, or maybe even some mid-range matchups where they're playing a lot more non-creature spells. 2 Banishing Slashes, which help against artifacts, enchantments, or additionally against creatures. And if you happen to have an artifact and an enchantment down at the same time, you get a token on top of that, so just tons of value from this card. 2 extra Bankbusters to help grind against control or mid-range as well. 2 temporary lockdowns to help against anything that's going to be playing a lot of smaller permanents, kind of like an Anvil deck or anything like that. We also have a 1 of Edgar, Charmed Groom, which helps against the control decks, the mid-range decks. You play this, if it dies, essentially just flips and then starts to create a lot more value after that. We have 2 Burn Down the Houses, which can be a board up against planeswalkers or creatures, or you can make the 3 Devil tokens and start to attack with those. We also have a couple Farewells in the sideboard, which is kind of just like a catch-all for a lot of decks. Sometimes you end up just using all the abilities on this card by exiling an Underdog, what's in play, a Fable, some Blood tokens. Yeah, this card's just, super, super catch-all card right now in Standard. 1 Sanctuary Warden, just a big go-over-the-top card against any mid-range strategy. It comes in with 2 shield counters, and then essentially you remove some counters from other permanents that you have, or this permanent itself to help draw a card and create some 1/1 creature tokens to start going wide. I think this card's great. I have already played it a few times in Standard, and I think there's definitely some power there. 1 of March of the Otherworldly Light as kind of just like a catch-all for any problematic permanent, or additionally just like a removal spell. I can see maybe playing another March or 2 in the sideboard just because it's a really, really good card, maybe even main deck over like a Grasp or even the Cut Down, but just a really strong card overall. We've definitely seen it since its printing making a splash here, but really, really happy with this deck. I think that this is the deck that you're definitely going to have a lot of success with on the ladder, especially if like mid-range is what you like to play. There's a lot of interactive spells and there's a lot of game-ending threats overall that kind of help close out the game very quickly. So let's go ahead and jump into the games. Trying to grind out our opponents here with some Mardu, some mid-range, and going to be on the play here. Unfortunately, we do have a 1-land hand, so we do have to take a mulligan. This hand's a little bit better. It's a little bit slower, but I don't think that we want to go down to 5, especially being on the play. We also have Fable. So we have 2 removal spells that we can interact with early. We have the Fable. Henrika's probably going to go back. That or the Meat Hook. I feel like it's a lot to kind of keep this, and this will be good later. Opponent's still deciding if they want to keep their hand, potentially mulligan. So I do apologize about some downtime here, but definitely make sure that you check all the links in the description for our tournaments, 3 a month, free to play. My content as well. I stream on Twitch 4 days a week, one of those days including the tournaments that I do have, so definitely get in on it. Free to play with cash prizes, and make sure that you check out all the content as well on our YouTube channel. And we'll go ahead and keep this 6. I think I'm going to put Meat Hook back. Kind of like the Henrika here, especially if we draw some lands. Kind of want to have some more plays to do later in the game, I think. And we're going to have to start off with this Haunted Ridge. Tapped. Opponent does as well. And definitely looking for a 3rd land here to start off with this Fable. We do not hit it, unfortunately, and we do draw a card that's not in our colors that we have available to us here. Opponent could be playing their own Fable, and they are. We will go ahead and just shoot this token down, considering our best use right now is to just use the mana that we have available. We do draw a 3rd land, so unfortunately, the fact that we were on the play is a little bit negated by us missing a land drop, but we're not as behind as we could be. If we draw a land, this Henrika is going to be great. We may want to just discard some cards here to redraw. Not on parity per se, considering we have less lands than opponent. And it looks like they're going to do the same with their own Infernal Grasp on our Goblin token. We draw a land. I think we'll go and get rid of the Spirited Companion and keep the rest of the cards in our hand. We have a Wedding Announcement. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and just play another Fable here. We can kill their Fable whenever it flips on our turn. And if we draw a land, we can also play this Wedding Announcement to start going wide on the board. Okay, Liliana over the Veil, potentially just down ticking here. Yep. We're going to sack our Goblin token. Opponent's going to hit us for 3 damage. We'll go down to 15. And looking to top deck a land here. Okay, Bank Buster's still pretty good. We can go ahead. Could even get rid of this Henrika. I think I'd rather just keep everything. Let's kill this Reflection. Play the Bank Buster to give us some more cards. They're going to use their Blood Tithe Harvester to kill one of our Reflections. At least I would believe so, unless they just have another removal spell. They could have another Liliana, which is fine, I guess. Like, they'd have to just get rid of their other one that's already in play. Okay, Voltage Surge. So we're just going to take 3 more damage here. We are going to have a Fable that's going to flip over pretty soon, though. We get a Kaido. We have to discard a card. It's a little bit awkward, but I'm just going to discard the Wedding Announcement because I can crew the Bank Buster. We actually draw Sarah Paragon, which is fantastic here. Because that also crews the Bank Buster. Ooh, we do have to take some damage for it, though. But we potentially will get our Wedding Announcement back here on the following turn. I actually think at this point sacrificing the Reflection is more relevant than the Paragon if our opponent plays another Liliana. And we still have a Henrika back up here to transform. We'll go down to 5. If we draw a land, still won't be able to use the other side of this, so we're getting potentially dangerously low on life total here, obviously at 5. The fact that we have Cave of Koilos is definitely a problem right now, because we don't really want to play back our white cards from the graveyard. And opponent does have Soul Transfer either way, so we're losing some value here. Tenacious Underdog is pretty good. So we could transform. Can also Underdog, copy it. Opponent is 2 mana. We're at 5, can't really blitz this in. Really looking for some mana here. Gotta try to kill this Kaido too. Let's go and just play this. If it resolves, and then if we can get it to transform, we'll be able to crew the Bank Buster. Opponent may just have a removal spell here. But we're going to go after this Kaido. If they have an Underdog, we're pretty much done for. Doesn't look like they do. Could have multiple ways to make us lose life if they have like a Invoke Despair. Okay, Corpse Appraiser, so we're at 2 life. Right now our Henrika's alive. That gives us some lifelink. We have a Reflection that we're potentially going to be able to untap with. We still have this Bank Buster. We're really looking for some lands to be able to cast more of our cards. And our Wandering Emperor, unfortunately, we can't even cast right now because we'll just take some damage for that. Can't create a copy of a creature. Could play Underdog, copy it, block one of their cards. Seems pretty decent. Could also buff this up to 4. Go back up to 6. Or we could go up to 5, then 3, then gain 2. Seems a bit risky. I think I'm coming in for 3, just because we kind of just need the life here. I don't want to just pass and then they top deck the removal spell. So we'll definitely go up to 5, then we go down to 3, then we go back up to 5 by killing this. That seems okay. We could also just underdog. Yeah, I kind of like underdog and then copying it with the reflection. We can even use the regular underdog to crew the bank buster if need be. And we can just do all this at instant speed in response to them potentially killing our reflection. Opponent still has 3 cards in hand. Wow, a me hook for 4. Can we do anything about that? We'll go down to 3. Enrica cannot be pumped because it costs 3 mana. Yeah, I think we just have to let this resolve here. We're going to take 2 damage. We'll get the draw card off the bank buster. Okay, a white mana source. Could play Fable and draw off the bank buster. I kind of like that. Let's pass the turn back. We're at 3 though. That me hook's pretty deadly right now. Okay, Sorin. Potentially just going to down tick here and a Blood Tithe Harvester. We'll get a draw off of the bank buster. Okay, Haunted Ridge and a Shattered Sanctum. So let's get rid of the Haunted Ridge. Drawing a cave. Not really what we want to see, but... Okay, so... Can't really grab Underdog back. No good attacks. I think we just have to pass the turn back here. Opponent 2 cards, 2 blood tokens, couple creatures as well. Planeswalker we have to deal with here. We're at 3. We're going to uptick on the Sorin to get a card draw. And they have Liliana the Veil here. Okay, Corpse Appraiser. And they're just going to get rid of our underdog. Trying to see if we have, let's see. We have 3 meat hooks. Even if we hit meat hook, it's not the greatest. I think I'll draw. Voltage Surge is pretty good here. I do like that quite a lot. Can also sacrifice a token to the Liliana. See how our opponent attacks here. Just the 2/3. Okay, we'll definitely play the Wandering Emperor. We'll down tick, gain a couple life. Go back up to 5. Opponent plays another Fable here. And we're mostly just looking for any card that's like a value card here on our draw. We're out of Bankbuster counters, so now it's mostly just like a pretty decent attacker. Okay, wedding announcements is pretty good. We'd flip this Fable over. We also have an uptick on Wandering Emperor. So let's see here. I think either way we may want to crew the Bank Buster, give it a counter, attack the Sorin. We play Wedding Announcement. It gives us another blocker. Still have Reflection back. I think that's fine. Don't really have any good blocks here. They can block all out, and then we just have Voltage Surge kind of blow them out here. So if they want to do that, we're completely fine with that. But yeah, Chump Block just seems a lot more reasonable. We do go down to 4 though because of the meat hook, so don't really have too many opportunities to do that. May also want to just use a Voltage Surge here on the Blood Tithe Harvester, or potentially just kill the Sorin now while they're tapped out and they can't get another draw off of it. They want to use this here, that's fine. We do only just have one blocker though. We'd go down to 3, they get Liliana. We lose more life. Yeah, I think we just want to kill this. Don't think we really have too much of a choice here. Play the cave, sure. And we'll get a token. Could have also potentially attacked with 2 creatures to redraw, but I think playing it safe right now is just a little bit better. Being at 4, we're definitely in a rough predicament here. Especially if they end up board wiping themselves. They can just kill us with a meat hook. We almost want them to attack because then we'll be able to use our Wandering Emperor to at least gain a little bit more of some life. Could just have a Soul Transfer here. Okay, Voltage Surge on the Wandering Emperor, sure. Opponent could have an attack here. Wouldn't be bad. Still thinking that they're going to want to kill my Reflection, though. Because we will be able to get some more redraws off of this Bank Buster here pretty soon. We'll be able to copy it. They Liliana the Veil, we just get rid of our 1/1. Then they do have some really good attacks, though. And we'd be forced to have to block, so we almost want to get rid of the one that's tapped just because we need a blocker. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do this, though. We'll go down to 3. Definitely a bit rough. We draw a land. Let's crew. Copy the Bank Buster. Get a redraw. And yeah, fortunately we just don't really have too much. We can make a token block, but the meat hook's definitely just gonna kill us as well, slowly but surely. Like we have to block their cards, and by blocking them and killing them, we're just gonna lose. Let's see here. So a pretty mid-rangey deck from our opponent. Both on the mid-range game plan. Temporary Lockdown. Gets rid of some cards. Not enough, I don't think. I think we want the Duresses. Edgar feels pretty good here. I really like all of my top end. Underdog. It's fine. I'm not sure about it though. Still like the Bank Buster. Maybe we cut a Henrika over the Edgar. Also have Farewell, which is pretty good against them. Yeah, maybe we go a little bit lower. Let's I guess either way, we're still going to put in a 6-drop. It's kind of hard to determine like where we want to like try to outvalue. I don't know if we just want more threats or want to run a mixture of answers as well. I think we can cut one of these companions down. Let's go and try this and see how we go. And going to be on the play. And we end up drawing the Farewell. We have a Blood Tithe Harvester. Going to be a little bit rough with our mana base here, taking some damage from these pain lands if we want to play some double mana cost cards, but okay, they just have some removal spells. Let's take this negate first. Play Blood Tithe Harvester, and then more likely they use their Infernal Grasp. So, do we just want to duress away the Soul Transfer? Maybe they just play their own Blood Tithe Harvester. I feel like that would be a better use for them potentially. And then maybe we just have the Meat Hook for both of these later. Or maybe even the Farewell. Okay, opponent with the Infernal Grasp. Draw a Haunted Ridge, which helps alleviate some of the damage, but if we want to use some white mana, we are going to have to take some eventually. I think we just play... it's kind of rough. Let's duress, see what our opponent drew outside of the Soul Transfer. So they have an Underdog. Let's just get rid of this. If we top deck a Wandering Emperor, I'm more likely to want to play that. And this gets us closer to it. Obviously, we don't have double white, but could also discard this Haunted Ridge to try to get to it. Yeah, I actually think it's worth the shot. Okay, so Fierce Springs, we do hit our second white, but it's another pain land, so let's go ahead and pass the turn back. We got a Meat Hook here for their board, considering it's likely that they do just play both of their creatures. Okay, going for the Blitz instead. We'll go down to 13. And a Shattered Sanctum, not really doing the job here. If we want a Meat Hook, we're not really getting any value, so fortunately, we're just in a little bit more of like an awkward spot right now. Yep, gonna get back the Underdog, no reason not to. We'll go down to 7. An Emperor would be ideal here. Wedding Announcements, not bad. Could just Farewell. Meat Hook isn't really doing much. Yeah, it feels a little bit bad. We could also make a blocker off of the Wedding Announcement, but then if they kill that, we're pretty much just dead. Maybe it's better because it incentivizes them to kind of play more on the battlefield. They have another land. Maybe they just go Underdog plus the Harvester, swing out. We can block and then massacre 2 of their creatures. Or potentially just Farewell all the cards away, including the Underdogs in the graveyard. And unfortunately, they did have the removal spell, so we can get another token on our turn as a blocker. 2 tokens now. I think we just have to do it. Hope for the best here. I would rather still stall out for this Farewell. See what our opponent has here. And our opponent just had a Meat Hook either way for their own creatures, so not really like ideal there, but let's go and see how the rest of our matches go. playing some Mardu Midrange here. Looks like we're going to be on the play. And our hand is looking pretty solid here, even though we're going to take a little bit of damage to get our cards down. The fact that we have some early plays and kind of some mid-game, which is where we really want to be, and the mana to cast all those cards is pretty great. So let's go and start off with the Sanctum. Then we have a Springs for this Bloodtithe Harvester. And we actually just drew a Fable, so we'll definitely be playing that on time, even though we're going to take some damage here from our mana base just to get our spells down. They are rather powerful, so I don't mind it. And our opponent has their own Bloodtithe Harvester. And let's see here. So I think we definitely want to play Plains. I'm actually just going to attack. They didn't make the trade, which I find kind of interesting. Going to take a point of damage, just get this Fable down. If they want to kill the Goblin, that's fine. Our Fable's going to flip in a couple turns, which gives us a better late game with our own Bloodtithe Harvester. Right now we have a decent amount of permanents on the battlefield here. And our opponent's actually going to go for the attack back. We'll go ahead and take it. If they want to spend a card on our Goblin or the Harvester, we're completely fine with that. Okay, looks like they're playing an Anvil deck here. So they'll go ahead and make a 1/1 token, I believe. So it makes a lot more sense that they attacked with that Bloodtithe Harvester now. And I think I would rather ship the Cave of Koilos. Yeah, Cave of Koilos just deals us damage. Don't think I want that. Okay, so a bit unfortunate there. We may have to play the Iganjo. We'll play the Henrika. What mode do we want to do? Potentially just transform this into a 3/4. I feel like that's pretty good. Kill their Bloodtithe Harvester. We are about to have a flip Fable. So I don't think that we want to do that. I think I'd rather also go down to 12 and redraw a card. Yeah, I actually don't mind that. Attack Enuma. Come in for 3. And we'll pass the turn back. Next turn we can flip this. We also have Elspeth, so we can gain... There's a chance we can gain a lot of life next turn. Specifically if the Henrika gets to flip over. We also have a Fable here that's going to transform. Opponent's going to come in for 3. I think that we block this now. No reason to keep taking that much damage. So yeah, I don't mind the block here. We still have a Bloodtithe Harvester if our opponent decides that they want to make us sacrifice a creature through like a Liliana, anything like that. Okay, just a Fable on their side. I think we play Takenuma, a Wedding Announcement, and a Spirited Companion. Ooh, so we drew the Cave of Koilos. And we actually have... so we could also Elspeth here. I think I still like the game plan of Wedding Announcement. Plus the Companion because this is just so much value. And then now we can actually transform the Henrika. Gain 3 life back so we can take some damage on this following turn. Just because we want to keep the Bloodtithe Harvester and Reflection, we're not going to block with those. Opponent is going to get some redraws here from the Fable. Opponent down to 4 cards. They have an Underdog in the graveyard here. And they have some value on the battlefield, but Still feeling pretty confident about what we've got going on. And luckily Henrika did gain us some life, so I don't mind taking this 2 damage here. We have an Elspeth Resplendent that's going to do quite a bit of work if we're able to get to it, and we're going to be able to start copying our creatures as well from the reflection. Artifact, damage to creature or planeswalker, so it looks like they're going to kill the reflection here. I think we're still okay with that. Our cards can go just a little bit bigger and more over the top of theirs. Opponent has Reckoner's Bargain. They'll get to draw some cards. Gain a little bit of some life. And let's see here. So I actually like casting the Tekanuma because eventually we want to stop taking damage here. From our lands, we'll cast this Elspeth Resplendent. And we'll go ahead and put a counter on one of our creatures. Yeah, on the Harvester here. Let's give it lifelink. So now we can just start gaining tons of life back. And let's say our opponent does deal with some of the things that we have on the battlefield. I mean, we just have so much going on right now that it's still going to be kind of hard for them to do that. So let's come in for 7 lifelink here. Elspeth is also at 6 loyalty, so we can use its second ability twice if we need to. Or if we end up getting back to our next turn, we'll be able to get it close to ultimate range. And we'll go up to 14 because the opponent does have the Anvil. We'll get to draw a card, which is a Sarah Paragon that helps us recast our Fable from the graveyard. Opponent's going to get their own Fable, but we have an Infernal Grasp for that. And the Anvil is also going to become a creature here, but we got some blocks. See how our opponent wants to attack. Yep, going to attack the Elspeth here. I think we just block with both of our creatures. There's no real reason not to. And just make sure they don't have trample. They do not. And I think we can just use this blood token to cycle through this Cave of Koilos to kind of help hit some better cards here. Considering that we're starting to get to the late game, we mostly just want to keep out valuing our opponent. And it looks like they just have a meat hook here. Going to crack this blood token. And we draw another Blood Tithe Harvester. So we are going to go down to 10. Opponent's going to go up to 13. They do lose their Anvil, which I actually like. And our Elspeth is still alive here, so we can actually uptick on it. But first, I think that we want to cast our Paragon. We'll go ahead and play a Companion because we don't take any damage from that. And we'll uptick on our Elspeth here, putting a counter on the Companion as well with some lifelink. And we'll pass the turn back. Our winning announcement flips over. And Voldaren Epicure from our opponent here. Obnixilis copying it. So we could end up taking quite a bit of damage here, depending on what our opponent does, but we also have some lifelink on the other side of the battlefield. I think we'll just pitch one of these Infernal Grasps, and we have quite a bit of value on the battlefield right now, so it's still going to be pretty hard for our opponent to deal with what we're doing. We can make 5 3/3s, but we know they have meat hooks, so I still don't think that that's a good idea. I think I'd rather just put some lifelink on a flyer. And let's go and see if our opponent has a response here. And opponent's definitely thinking this through. Not sure what they could have. I know that they have a stop from the blood token itself. And we have quite a bit of plays that we're going to have here. So, yep, go and give this lifelink. We have the Fable that we can cast out of the graveyard. We only have one red mana, though, unfortunately. Let's go to combat here. Let's kill this Obnixilis. Attack the other one as well. Try to gain some life here off the Companion and the Paragon. And then I still think we want to go for the Fable game plan. And hold up this Infernal Grasp. So let's go and play the Fable. We'll take a point of damage. I'm wondering whether or not it's best to play this Sanctum, considering we've already seen one Obnixilis. I'd rather almost keep the card in case we need to discard it to that, Liliana's. There's no real reason to play it. We already have enough white mana that's not dealing us damage. I'm really looking for another red source here. And let's go and pass the turn back. Hold up this Infernal Grasp. We have Meat Hook. If the game gets out of control, and just a lot of value right now on the battlefield. Opponent down to 2 cards, and just a Tenacious Underdog in the graveyard. Meat Hook's pretty good, though, for them. It keeps draining us, but not really too impressed here with the Underdog. I think that we just trade with the Goblin. Or if they're just going to attack the Elspeth. Yeah, I don't see myself ultimating the Elspeth anytime soon. So I think I'm okay with it just taking some damage here. And we don't want to use this Infernal Grasp on their token because that's just not really that much great value. And our opponent's going to go ahead and cycle their blood token. And we'll just pass it back. We'll get some redraws here. Not really interested in these cards. Looking for any red mana. Fortunately, it's more red mana that does deal us damage, but got another Fable here. And just lots of value going on. Let's go ahead and attack. Opponent with 3 cards. They could Meat Hook potentially for 6. If we did this, it would have been 7. But I don't think that that's really that necessary. And yeah, opponent's just not even going to block. Just take the lethal damage. Kind of just had a lot going on. We also could have Meat Hooked our own cards to finish off our opponent if we really needed to. Let's see what we can do here in terms of bringing in some value cards against our opponent. Farewell is an option. It just doesn't deal with Planeswalkers, though, is always the problem. Opponent does have quite a lot of permanents. Kind of like the March here. Temporary Lockdown seems pretty good as well. Banishing Slash gives us lots of options. Duress is okay as well, considering we've seen quite a bit of non-creature cards. The Reckoners as well there. So I can kind of see that early, or maybe later, to kind of snag an Obnixilis. I think we just cut the Underdog. Need to cut 4 more cards. Potentially just cut a Henrika, the Infernal Grass, and let's see the cut down. They have Tenacious Underdog, but I kind of want to keep some removal in the deck. I like the Voltage Surge more than the Infernal Grasp, though. I think I like keeping one, and then 2 of these just in case there's like some problematic permanents like the Blood Tithe or the Underdog that we need to kill to kind of conserve our life total. We need to cut 1 more card. Bankbuster's still good for the grind. Yeah, maybe it's just Henrika. We don't really get full effect out of it. It's that or the Wandering Emperor, maybe even, because the Wandering Emperor is kind of like a 4-mana card. And there's not really much that we're going to be exiling with it at instant speed outside of some 1/1s or Blood Tithe, Devil Tokens. Not really like anything too crazy worth playing like a 4-mana card over. And unfortunately, we do have to take a mulligan here. We don't have a white source in our hand. It's a little bit more awkward here. But I actually think that we can keep it and put the Blood Tithe Harvester back. Lockdown's kind of just a blowout. It does snag our wedding announcement tokens, which I'm not really too happy about that. But if, let's say, we get rid of an anvil, some blood tokens, a couple creatures on our opponent's side, I'm a lot happier about it. Interesting. Opponent's just going to start off with the meat hook here. We could also cast our own, but I don't really think that's necessary. I'd rather wipe the board next turn. I think we still want to start off with this wedding announcement. And opponent doesn't have a Fable here. And let's go and get this wedding announcement down. Generate some value. Obviously, we're looking for a red mana source here off of the Fable. And they're going to come in for 2 damage here. We can definitely take that. Opponent down to 4 cards. Let's see what else they got going on right now. Really looking for a red source here. Okay, Anvil. We do have Companion to redraw, so it's not bad. And we're going to get another token off of this wedding announcement. Ooh, Ob Nixilis, though, is pretty good here. Think we can take the damage now. It's a bit rough, but definitely feels like we have to. If we lock down, we get rid of 4 permanents. Don't get rid of their Planeswalker, though, unfortunately. Yeah, kind of in like this weird spot right now. If we play another wedding announcement, we'll get 2 tokens instead. Meat hook for 1 doesn't really do anything. Lockdown does get rid of their engine. They're potentially just going to uptick both Ob Nixilis next turn. Yeah, I think I'm okay with this. Could have been an argument for maybe attacking with the 1/1 token, but I also saved myself a life point by doing this, considering the token's not going to hit the graveyard. So let's see what our opponent decides here. Yep, just going to sack it. Still deal us a point of damage, but essentially get rid of most of their battlefield and then getting a 1/1 token. At the end of the day, any land off the top that comes into play untapped would be really good. We're not casting this Fable anytime soon. Could also just take the damage, go down to 12. I think we take the first one, and then we have to discard on the second one. But I still like keeping the wedding announcement in the companion. If we get rid of a me hook, but then we have to use a me hook, and this feels pretty rough. I think we're just going to get rid of this. We just don't have any red mana right now, because even if we draw land, it's not guaranteed to be a red source. Opponent down to 2 cards. Looks like they may just use a removal spell on our token, which I'm pretty happy about that, considering that was most of their turn. The only downside is we don't really have too much going on. Companion does give us a redraw. We get 2 tokens if we just play the announcement. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more inclined to do this. This can also get us a redraw next turn if we attack with those creatures, and this one's going to flip over and make our creatures bigger. So I think we get rid of this Henrika. We can't cast it. Take another 2 damage. Go down to 10. Still have Elspeth, Lisa, and Wandering Emperor to gain some life. Yeah, let's get rid of a Mehook. Definitely a tough spot. Opponent hasn't cast anything yet. Let's see what they have going on. And they're just going to Mehook for 2, which, I mean, I'm okay with that. They're getting rid of their Fable. No red mana. Let's play Companion. Get a redraw. Another wedding announcement. We get a token off of the other one. We're at 11. Potentially just discard this Voltage Surge to the Ob Nixilis here. It's not really doing anything. Take that damage, though. Let's see what their last 2 cards are. They have Voldaren Epicure. Could play our own Mehook to offset theirs. We just hit Duress. But no redraws. Let's attack the 4 loyalty Ob Nixilis. Yep, we'll go down to 7. Alright, let's play another wedding announcement. We'll get 2 redraws. Try to hit some lands here. We have pretty low life. We can discard our cards, considering the Mehook's not really as crazy anymore. We also hit a Lockdown, so Lockdown's just like a little bit better, considering we can actually cast it and it'll get rid of our opponent's permanents. Opponent cracking the blood token. And we'll go and discard this cut down. And I'm just going to get rid of the Duress. Maybe we just play our Mehook now to kind of get parity with the opponent. Down to 1 card. Got to attack. Let's see, they have 1 at 3. We just hit another Mehook. Yeah, I think we just play this for pretty much no value here. We'll attack the 3 loyalty Ob Nixilis with both of our creatures. And we'll get to redraw a card at the end of turn. Just looking for some lands here. I mean, we have plenty of spells that go over the top. Opponent pretty much has lethal if they don't block, but I feel like they really want to keep this Ob. Yeah. It's a lot better if they just don't block. We just pitch both of these. Go down to 4, which is obviously dangerous, but we're getting some of the consistent damage off the battlefield. And not able to cast that card, so definitely a bit of an awkward game here, but not out of it yet. And they have to get rid of both of our creatures here if they essentially want to try to ultimate this Ob Nixilis. Okay, just going to tap out for the Eaten Alive. Any land hits us our Mehook for 2, which definitely is awkward. But unfortunately, that's the play right now. Yep. Just going to kill their Blood Tithe Harvester. We'll deal Ob Nixilis a point of damage. We get another token here. And I think I'm just going to go down to 5. Still want to keep this lockdown in case we got to get rid of some cards here. Wandering Emperor would be the ideal draw, I believe. Archangel's okay, but we need some more mana if we want to use the damage ability. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and attack Ob Nixilis here with both. Opponent down to 1 card. It's likely that they just block to try to keep the Ob out. And did they draw a removal spell? They did not, so Ob Nixilis goes down to 3. Let's get a redraw from our companion. And then potentially discarding this temporary lockdown. Okay, we hit a Haunted Ridge, so we actually hit red mana. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think we're just going to pass here. Not getting any more value off these wedding invitations, but yeah, I'm just going to get rid of this. I mean, it gets rid of our own cards, and right now we have more cards on the battlefield, so I don't really think that us keeping the board wipe's going to help us. And opponent does have a meat hook here. So we're essentially going to stay at about equal life totals. We draw a land, not really the card we want to see. We're going to pass back. Opponent's going to uptick on the Ob Nixilis. We have to discard this card. And they have a Fable. We draw a Blood Tithe Harvester. We are able to cast here. Gonna have to block the token. Opponent getting a redraw off the card they drew, which was just a land. We're going to go down to 3. Let's see what their last card is. Still looking for some life gain here. Elspeth would be great. It's not the greatest right now, though. Mostly because we have to use a mana to try to cycle this away to get a redraw. And we just hit a land. If they block, we go down to 2. Either way, we still stay at 3 because of the Massacre. I kind of think I have to attack this Ob Nixilis. It's definitely rough, but yeah, they definitely want to keep it out. So we can just kill their token here on the block. This Fable's going to flip. Okay, they just have Voltage Surge. That's fine. Yep. I don't think we have a way out of this now because we don't have a creature on the battlefield. They can just ultimate their Ob Nixilis on us. And they also have a creature now, so not really many cards that can get us out of this. Archangel Wrath would be really good. It'd be able to at least hit the Ob Nixilis for some damage and we'd gain some life. But unfortunately we just drew a land, so we're going to have to go ahead and pack it in and move on to game 3 here. So definitely got done in by the Ob Nixilis. Let's see what we want to cut. Lockdown was pretty good. We just weren't able to use it the second time around. Is Bankbuster just too slow? Or do we even need the Grasp? Fable's still a card, but we can just kill it with the... Still have a cut down, and we have the Voltage Surges. Burn down the house is also an option, considering it kills the Ob Nixilis. Could just try that out. We're having a hard time, though, getting red, so maybe even double red might be hard. It's kind of a bit of a stretch. Edgar doesn't really do it. Farewell. Still just doesn't really kill Planeswalkers. That's mostly what we're losing to right now is the Ob Nixilis. Could also cut the Sarah Paragon. But it does fly. Lisa still has lifelink as well. Or is Blood Tithe the card? Yeah, let's bring another Wandering Emperor in. I kind of just like the life gain from it. And the fact that it's like a consistent threat is also really good. I just feel like we don't want to run out of gas like we did that last game. Okay, it was a pretty good hand here. Early interaction, some early spells with the Spirited Companion into the Fable. And we have a Paragon to essentially rebuy our cards back. Let's go and get a redraw here off the Companion. Curve out into this Fable and potentially this Wandering Emperor on top. So our hand's looking pretty good so far. Opponent does hit us with the Duress, so it is likely that this Wandering Emperor or the Fable goes away. Okay, opponent choosing the Fable here. And we'll play this Plains, play another Spirited Companion. Get a redraw, come in for a point of damage, and pass the turn back. Have the Voltage Surge open in case we need to kill any 2 toughness creature. Okay, opponent just has another Duress for us, so unfortunately our Wandering Emperor is going to hit the bin, but we have a Sarah Paragon here that we're going to try to slam to essentially get that Fable back on the following turn. Haunted Ridge, pretty nice to draw, but I don't mind keeping some of that information away from my opponent right now. So let's go and play the Paragon and hope that it survives. If it does, we'll have the Fable on the following turn. And we'll come in for 2. Pass turn back. So next turn, if Paragon does survive, we have Fable, but yep, looks like our opponent does have the Infernal Grasp here. And let's go and duress our opponent, potentially take their Fable. They have 2 of them. I think I will take... And the Anvil seems tempting because they can cast it next turn. They can't really get that engine going unless they draw other artifacts. Yeah, let's just get rid of the Anvil. Either way, if they draw land, they're going to get to play one of their Fables, so discarding one doesn't really, at least for me right now, doesn't make too much of a huge difference. And it looks like they're stuck on land still. They do get a Blood Tithe Harvester down. I think I'm fine just redrawing before I snap off this Voltage Surge. Okay, we just hit our own Meat Hook. And right now we just have Voltage Surge, potentially their Harvester, and keep the damage going. It's kind of our only play, so I think we just have to take it here, hit our opponent down to 10. Play this Cable Koilos, pass it back. We're still at 20. Opponent does hit their 3rd land. I think they're going to Meat Hook for 1, just to get rid of our cards. Seems like the safer play. Okay, going for the Fable. Immediate value. Fortunately, we're drawing a land. And we just have to pass the turn back here. And opponent is starting to draw their lands now, so they can play their other Fable if they want to, but they are opting for this Meat Hook Massacre here. Going back up to 11. We'll go down to 19, but they do get a treasure token as well. And they're holding up a Voltage Surge. We can duress away their other Fable. We're starting to get a bit behind, though, in terms of value. And we'll go and pass it back. And opponent does have 2 removal spells here. Blood Tithe Harvester coming down. So our Meat Hook still looks pretty good right now. We're going to be able to get rid of all the creatures they have on the battlefield. And let's say if they wanted to get rid of those Voltage Surges so we don't gain any more life, I'd definitely be happy with that. But we'll go back up to 20 here. Pass a turn back. Mostly looking for any top-end card that we have in our deck at this point. Lisa would be great because it gets through the Voltage Surges, so they'd actually have to use both if they wanted to kill it. Okay, opponent cracking the Blood Token, though. Going to get a redraw here. Potentially going for the second one. They are. Discarding another land. And they drew a land, they play it. We actually do draw the Lisa here, so I'm just going to play it. They want to spend both of their Voltage Surges. I think I'm okay with that. It's still 2 for 1. And then now any of our other cards are pretty much going to be free here. So looking for Elspeth, Wandering Emperor. Henrico would be great. Sarah Paragon will be phenomenal. Burnout House, not bad actually. We'll make some devils and we'll get in for some damage. Pass turn back. Opponent down to 7. And they actually drew a Mihawk, which is pretty good here. So they're going to break even on life. We'll deal them 3, and then they'll just gain the 3 back. Definitely a pretty good draw there. We draw a Fable, though. That's fantastic. Definitely gives us some late game here. We have a land in our hand, so that way if we draw another one, we'll be able to get 2 redraws off of the Fable. Looks like they drew a removal spell. Voltage Surge, yep. Gonna kill the token. And I think I'm okay redrawing both of these. We want to hit some cards on the battlefield now. And Takanuma is pretty good because we can actually get back this Lisa at the end of our opponent's turn. So opponent draws Epicure. We'll go ahead and just do this now. That way the turn goes by a little bit quicker. We can also get Sarah Paragon. That gives us back a Fable and some lands. The Spirited Companions. Yeah, let's get back the Paragon. Paragon's just better. It's just so much more value. And we just draw a Fable anyways. This one's going to flip. Let's play the Paragon. Let's replay one of the pups. Get a draw. And our opponent's going to go and concede. We just started to have tons of value there by getting that Paragon back. So definitely a grindy match, but we were able to take it down. Let's see how the rest of our matches go. Pizza people, are you enjoying the content? Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. It's free. Hit that bell icon as well. That way, anytime any of our new content comes out, you're able to see it right away. Hey, leave a comment down below as well. Tell us what you're going to play in the next event, or tell us what you're enjoying about the video. Don't forget, check out the description too. We've got tons of great content down below. And on top of that, we're going to have our tournament schedule too. So get in on it. Hope to see you. Playing some more Mardu on the ladder here. We're going to be on the play. And let's see. A little bit awkward on the mana. I think that we do have to mulligan, especially considering we can't play the Fable until turn 3, but we didn't even have the 3rd land. And I think I'm going to keep this. This is a lot better. We can go ahead and start off with this Sundown Pass into the Cave of Koilos, ensuring that we can play our Spirited Companion on turn 3. Haunted Ridge then comes into play untapped, on turn 3, so then that'll be great. So let's go ahead and do that. Koilos on 2. Companion, get a redraw. Looks like our opponent is playing an aggressive red deck, or an aggressive red strategy. Could see a green land here into Grohl. We have seen that a little bit on the ladder today. Ooh, looks like Boros, so they have a Hopeful Initiate. And we draw our 4th land, which I do like to see here. So let's go ahead and play this Haunted Ridge. We could Infernal Grasp with a Hopeful Initiate, but I actually think that I'm just going to wait to do everything on my opponent's turn and see what else that they have. The main reason being is that we can drop this Henrica Nick. Let's say, like, we can kill both of our opponent's creatures, anything like that, then we'll still be able to use this Henrica to sacrifice our Spirited Companion. So I don't mind taking a little bit of extra damage here, knowing that we can use our cards to go a lot more of a long way here. And our opponent plays a Wedding Announcement, so I think I'm okay just shooting this down now. They'll get a 1/1 token. Or excuse me, they'll actually get a redraw because they did attack with 2 creatures. So let's Henrica get a redraw. Drawing a land for this Elspeth that's in our hand, which is great. And I kind of like the value that we have on our side of the battlefield. The opponent kind of has to deal with the Henrika. Okay, Elspeth going to be 6 mana now, unfortunately. And they get a token. So we have a legendary creature. A Ganjo actually costs 2 less mana. Let's transform our Henrika, considering we don't really want to trade with a token here. Go to combat, attack with it, gain some life. And then we'll get to play our Fable. But then we actually won't be able to keep the Aganjo open. Yeah, I think I'm still okay playing the Fable here. I don't think that I want to play this, though, as a land, even though it does get us closer to the Elspeth. We'll still be able to do it if we need to, but I'm mostly hoping to top deck a land or use the treasure that gets created from the Goblin Shaman. So going to go down to 14 here. Could potentially mean that our opponent has some cards that can deal with our Henrika, considering we're just gaining some life here. Could also block. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that block. Kind of want to get some more information out of our opponent here, not really losing anything by blocking. Could have a 1 damage spell somewhere. Every time this happens, I always think of Goblin Chainwhirler, but it's definitely not in this format. And I think our opponent may be going to the Think Tank here. Okay. Just going to let damage happen. And they have another wedding announcement, so they'll get 2 redraws. They have 1 mana open. We get to untap. We have a Henrika. I don't think that we want to discard any of these cards. I would rather attack with all of our creatures first. We'll play the second Henrika. Ooh, I'm sorry. We needed to play that during combat. That's totally my mistake there, but still have another flyer on the battlefield. Definitely was thinking a little bit too far ahead there, but it's all right. We still have Planeswalker, lots of things going on that our opponent has to deal with. So definitely missed out on some value there, but I think that's fine. Our Fable is also going to be able to flip on the following turn, which will be able to start copying our Goblin token or draw some more cards off the companion. Kind of just have a good amount of value here. The big problem would be that our opponent has a lot of cards in hand. Wow, another wedding announcement. Okay. So they're going to get some tokens. I'm just going to take that damage. We can still use this. Yeah, let's just do that. There's no reason not to. Yep, gonna die. And now they just have 2 mana available. They get a couple tokens. And it's still looking alright that we actually ended up not sacrificing our Spirited Companion. We have full options now with this Henrika. I think we still play this Elspeth now. We want to uptick on the Goblin token. We'll give it flying. Let's see, let's get a redraw. Knee hook's fine. We'll come in for 7 flying. 3 of it lifelink. Put our opponent down to 3. And let's just pass the turn back. And it looks like our opponent's just going to concede. We just have tons of value. So even though we had a little bit of a misstep, it's still just so much value accruing on the battlefield. So we're up against what looks to be like a Boros mid-range strategy, because they had a lot of wedding announcements. Don't get me wrong, you know, drawing 3 copies doesn't happen all the time, but the fact that cards in their deck doesn't necessarily mean that they're just a straight go rush deck. I kind of do like temporary lockdown, but could end up costing 4 mana from the Thalia. Does get rid of quite a bit of permanence on their side. Infernal Grass, the cut downs. I think we can cut down, once again, a couple Infernal Grass. Let's bring in both of these lockdowns. Henrika was fine. Do we want Burn Down the House because we know it's a board wipe? I kind of like the lockdown better because it's doing the same but at a cheaper cost. The difference being that Burn Down we can use as an offensive card if it gets to that point. I don't like the Underdog here because it's not necessarily going to get in for damage all the time. So we could bring in the March if we need to, just to get rid of a Wedding Announcement, a Fable, problematic permanent that they could have. Yeah, I'm actually just going to get rid of the Infernal Grass, bring in the March, and then I am somewhat inclined to bring the Burn Down or maybe even the Farewell. Yeah, let's try one Farewell. I kind of like that. Just gives us more... Like, I know that I want to bring in more board wipes in a sense, but not sure what combination we want right now with this deck. And we haven't really seen too much from our opponent outside of like a Thalia, some Wedding Announcements. That's pretty much it. No turn 1 play. We have Koilos to help smooth the draw. Let's start off with a tapped red source here into the Koilos, take a damage, Blood Tithe, into Wedding Announcement, and then a Paragon if our cards start to die. And it looks like our opponent may be dealing themselves a lot of damage here throughout the game. Don't get me wrong, we're dealing ourselves some damage too, but still happy to see it on the other side as well. Definitely going to trade with this adversary if our Blood Tithe Harvester gets a chance to block. Then we can follow it up with a Wedding Announcement. Yep, going to save our life total here. And opponent potentially has a third land drop with the Fable. Or their Wedding Announcements going off again, yep. And I think I'm going to go for Fable. Mostly because we can use this Me Hook to kill a couple of their tokens. Make treasures. If the Fable dies, then we can get it back with the Paragon later as well. Okay, opponent with another Wedding Announcement. So opponent definitely getting invited to the wedding here. And we have some options. I don't mind getting rid of the companion and a land. I think it's Meat Hook for one. Gain some life back. We'll hit them with the Goblin token. Play a Blood Tithe Harvester, and then we have our Fable flipping over. And even though they'll have one of the Wedding Announcements flip over, they're just going to have 1/2/2 for now that we know of, unless they play some other cards. Thalia's pretty good. It taxes our Wedding Announcement. And let's say if we had some other cards in the graveyard we wanted to play, it would do that as well. But we're going to hit a Fable here, flipped over. I'm actually... let's see, we can kill this and attack, but then they still have good blocks here. I kind of want to play this Paragon, but I would rather play it in the same turn that we can get something back potentially. So maybe we do start chipping away at their creatures. Let's just kill the Thalia. We'll attack with the Goblin token because now we'll actually be able to have 6 mana with our land drop. Oh, they got a double block. That's fine. Not really a big deal. And I actually like getting both of these permanents down. Let's see. Is that better than Paragon plus Harvester? I actually don't think that is. I think I'd rather get this down and then the consistent stream of removal here with the Fable. And on top of that, the Blood Tithe can pretty much kill anything at this point with 3 blood tokens out. So our opponent has to decide whether or not they want to kill the Paragon or the Reflection, and then either way, it's still kind of like pick your poison. If they don't kill the Paragon, then we still just have a ton of value from the graveyard. If they don't kill the Reflection, then essentially we just make a lot of Blood Tithe Harvesters and keep killing all their cards, even though the winning announcement gets to turn out another token. That's just 2 creatures. They have 2 cards in their hand. Let's say one of them is a land. They get a redraw, then they have 2 non-lands. Right now they haven't even played a removal spell. Okay, Cathar Commando. It's fine. It's a 4/2. It can blow up our meat hook if it they really need to. Same as our Reflection. So they could potentially have the answer to both of these cards right now, but they actually don't. And we'll go ahead and take that match down. And we're back for the post-game wrap. So as you can see, definitely a grind fest. It just felt like some of our games were just going to keep going and going and going. But luckily, we were definitely able to close those games out with Wandering Emperors. The Paragon was just absolutely phenomenal. You can already see from this video that this card is just so strong. Later in the game, when you just have more mana, you just play this down. And like I stated earlier, if your Fable's dead, you just get it back. Your Wedding Announcement's got destroyed, no problem. This card is just really great. Expect to see it in Standard for quite some time in all kinds of varieties of decks for sure. But I had a blast playing this deck. I really enjoy playing the mid-range grind. Kind of helps you play a long game of Magic and enjoy it. So if that's something you like as well, definitely craft this deck, give it a try. I also recommend this deck for tournaments as well that we host, specifically because you're still playing Fable and you're still playing a lot of these powerful black cards like the Meat Hook, Infernal Grass, Cut Down that are really good right now in the meta. And on top of that, you have the Wandering Emperor and the Paragon, just as I stated, that kind of help give you a lot more value as the game progresses. But overall, just a fantastic deck. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far and you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, bell notification, like, and leave a comment down below. Would be greatly appreciated. We host 3 tournaments a month. All are free to play. You can find links in the description below to that and to my content as well. And I hope that you stay cheesy.